jebe da no par jebe ge tarba dam tham je kembe bardu jobra jeba tham je se jebe man ka da nambe senjen tam je de wa dan de dung yao dang de nu du la na me pa yang dang bra jobe jang ju ren bo je tom bra jo Dong wo jie ge da no bar jie be ge tar ba dang tom jie ge be bar du jo bra jie ba tam jie ge ze jie be ma ka dong yam pe sen jen tom jie de wa dang de dung ya dang de nu du la na me ba ya dang bra zo be chang ju ren bo jie tom bra jo da la dong wa jie be da no ba jie be ge tar ba dang tam jie ken be bar du jo bra jie ba tam jie ge ze jie be ma nang ga dang nian pe sen jen tam jie de wa dang de dung yao dang de nu du la na me ba ya dang bra zo be chang ju ren bo jie Tom bra je de je de sama ge ge bardo longa yesum ge wa la go ma she bardo longa yesum ge wa la go do de re ne song te ne ma san ta sam ge bardo longa yesum ge wa la go san je jodan so ge chonam la Changchu bardu dhane kyabsu che dhage jinsu gebe sunang ke Drula penche sanje drupra shu sanje chodang soge chonam la Changchu bardu dhane kyabsu che dhage jinsu gebe sunang ke Drula penche sanje drupra shu sanje chodang soge chonam la Changchu bardu dani kyabzu che dagi jinsu gibe sunam ke rola penchu sanje dubra shu kadang nyampe senjen tamche dewa dang dewe gindan dambra gyuji dunya dang dunya gi gyudang dewa gyuji Dunga me pe dewa dang me dewa gyu chi ne ring cha dang ni dang dewa tang nyam la ne pra gyu chi ma nang ka dang nyam pe sen jen tam che dewa dang dewa gin dang den pra gyu chi dunga dang dunga gi gyu dang dewa gyu chi Tung yao me pe dewa dang me dewa gyu chi ne ring cha dang ne dang dewa dang nyong la ne bra gyu ju ma nang ka dang nyam pe sen chen tam je dewa dang dewa gyun dang den bra gyu ju tung yao dang tung yao gi gyu dang dewa gyu ju Tung yao me pe dewa dang me dewa gyu ju ne ring cha dang ni dang dewa dang nyong la ne bra gyu ju. In all the worlds of the 10 directions reside Tathagatas of the 3 times. Before each of you, lions among humans, I prostrate joyfully with body, speech, and mind. By the power of this aspiration to noble deeds, all conquerors appear vividly in my mind. With as many bodies as there are atoms in all lands, I prostrate to all you conquerors. In each atom, a Buddha's numberless as atoms, all in the midst of the heirs of the Buddhas. Thus I conceive of this Dharma Dhatu as completely filled with you conquerors in this way. With infinite oceans of praise and oceans of diverse melodies, I sing the excellent qualities of all you conquerors. and praise all of you gone to bliss. With the best flowers and best garlands, best music, ointments, and excellent parasols, finest lamps and superior incense, I offer to you, conquerors. With excellent garments and best fragrances, and sandalwood powder, heap high as Mount Meru, all wondrous offerings perfectly arranged, I offer to you, conquerors. These vast and unequal offerings to each and every one of you, conquerors, with the power of conviction in noble deeds, I prostrate and offer to all you, conquerors. All the harmful deeds that I have done with my body, speech, and mind, under the power of desire, hatred, and ignorance, I confess each and every one of them. I rejoice in all the meritorious deeds of all conquerors in the 10 directions and the heirs of the Buddhas. Solitary realizers here is still in training and beyond, and all wandering beings. You who are lamps of the worlds of the 10 directions, who have unobstructedly attained Buddhahood through the stages of Bodhi. All you who are my protectors, please turn the unexhaled wheel of Dharma. With palms together, I earnestly beseech you who may intend to manifest final nirvana. Please remain for as many eons as there are atoms in the world for the happiness and well-being of all wandering beings. Whatever slight virtue that may have been gathered through prostrating, offering, confessing, rejoicing, requesting, and beseeching, I now dedicate to complete Bodhi. This ground sprinkled with scented waters and strewn with flowers adorned with the supreme mountain, four continents, sun and moon. I visualize as a Buddha land and offer it. May all wandering beings experience such a pure land. To the Gurus who possess the three kayas, I offer the outer, inner, secret, and thusness offerings. With my body, wealth, and all phenomenal existence, please grant the unsurpassed supreme attainment. Whatever slight virtue I may have gathered through prostrating, offering, confessing, rejoicing, requesting, and beseeching, I now dedicate it all to complete Bodhi. Om Guru Deva Daki Nirana Mandala Prateja Soham. Please turn the wheel of Dharma of the greater, lesser, and common vehicles in accordance with the dispositions and mental capacities of sentient beings. Doji Chanchen Dili Narodang Mami Dampo Padu Chidin Gongan Din Sundin Sawe Lama Shasa Jilama Yidam Chokyong La Soba Deso Doji Jin Jilo Gyam Dengi Dume San Lengyan Tapai Doso Gyong La Kya Tume Gyawa Doji Changpa Jidin Gombo Shala Dodo Datu Sangyo Kyo Le Me Jin Jilo Shi Tuje Jin Nengi Mabasan Nengyang Sim Doji Dodo Pra Jin Jilo Jin 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 Pema Gesa Dum Bola Yasen Jogi Gordon Pema Junation Guru Gandro Mampu Guru Gigi Jesse Dawn to Gigi Logisha Suzo Guru Bema Zid Min Jugi Gimbodan into Susaji Kunjing of one day. Rasen Jogungo Sunto Se Bestowella Mention the Soba. Good morning and good evening to everyone. Now we are in the section of Shantideva where he debates the Sankhya system. Sankhya system is one of the 6 what's considered orthodox systems in the Hindu tradition of India. So in India, when they say orthodox, it's referring to those systems of philosophy, those spiritual systems that accept the Veda as authoritative. And so in that sense, the Buddhist as well as the Jain traditions of India are considered from that perspective not orthodox. Mm. So this Sankhya system, in general, as I've mentioned, to kind of make it really simple, and probably at the risk of misrepresenting them, they have this view where there are two primal, you can say, substances. One substance is immaterial, and another substance is material. So the immaterial they call Purusha, which literally means the person, and the material they call Prakriti, which can be translated as, often translated as nature. So they say that through the interaction between these two primal substances, primal meaning they are without beginning, without end, through the interaction between these two primal substances, then all that we see, all that exists, kind of come into existence. In terms of the Prakriti, the nature part, the material part, they say that there are three types, three energies. So in 127, it says pleasure, pain, and neutrality. These are the terms I think, used here by Shantideva: pleasure, pain, and neutrality. I think these three terms, in some ways, already reflect the Buddhist further interpretation of what the Sankhya's are saying. In the Sankhya's own kind of vocabulary, in Sanskrit, this is Rajasic, Tamasic, and Sattvic. The Rajas quality, which is the active quality, then the Tamas quality, which is the inert quality, inactive quality, and then the Sattva is the pure quality. But already here you see that Shantideva is already translating or interpreting Samkhya concepts through somewhat, I would say, Buddhist lenses. So 126, he says, those who hold the permanence of particles were indeed refuted earlier. The Sankhyas are the ones who hold that permanent Prakriti is the cause of the evolving world. And so here, Shantideva wants to zoom in on the Sankhyas theory about this Prakriti, this force, this material force that is the cause of the world. So just try to remember that what Shantideva is doing is to show how all these ideas about where the world comes from, how we are the way we are, he's going to find fault, you could say, with whatever beliefs or systems that somehow says how we are, where we are, how we became what we became is due to some other external force. That's what he's most concerned at disputing, at refuting. We continue in 127. And so he says, pleasure, pain, and neutrality, so-called, are qualities which, when they rest in equilibrium, are termed prakriti. But the universe arises when this balance is disturbed. And so he is kind of giving a summary of what the Sankhya's say. 128 to 137. That whole section we can just skip. First of all, he is debating a system that don't really exist anymore today, because the Sankhya's have further kind of refined their understanding of things. Secondly, also, I think those who have studied this more carefully says that basically even in Shantideva's own time, how he's debating the Sankhya isn't exactly how even back then the Sankhya's look at things. So he's basically speaking once again, to his fellow monks in Nalanda, who might be entertaining some combination of Sankhya ideas and Buddhist ideas, and he wants to help them to differentiate, to show clearly how these mixing these two kind of views is going to obscure kind of the power of the Buddha's view. And so instead, we go to 138, because that's where it comes back to kind of what the Buddha has to say, what the Buddha emphasizes, what Shantideva, what Nagarjuna emphasizes. So if we look at 138, so 138 is Shantideva raising a potential objection to the Buddha's way of emphasizing, or the Buddha's teaching on the relationship between like analysis, knowledge, and emptiness. So 138 begins there, kind of raising a doubt about, given what the Buddha said about emptiness, given what the Buddha said about emptiness, would it then, given what the Buddha said about emptiness, given what the Buddha said about how currently our understanding, our knowledge is obscured by confusion, given those two things, then doesn't whatever conclusion we come up with is necessarily flawed. That's basically kind of what is raised in verse 138. So Shantideva says, if you ask, as in the opponent, there is no validity in valid knowledge, is not all that it accesses false? Meaning, isn't then whatever our mind comes up with, including whatever it can come up with regards to understanding emptiness, wouldn't that itself also become false? And therefore, it becomes untenable to meditate on emptiness, this ultimate reality that you're talking about. So this is a good, a good question. Shantideva's answer is, I think, interesting. Again, based on my limited understanding of how he responds, I think he completely kind of ignores the objection that he raised. So here, when he completely ignores the objection that he raises on behalf of those who don't agree, first of all, I think we can say it's not that he is not able to answer the specific question raised, because after all, he raised it himself on behalf of his opponents. I think his not answering the objection that is raised tells us something about the purpose of analysis in the first place. The reason the Buddha advocated analysis in the first place. In other words, briefly, for our interpreters, I think make it easier and see where I'm going with this. In other words, he's saying, you guys want to use analysis and go into it as if we are debating philosophy, whereas the Buddha's use of analysis is not for that purpose. It's simply for the purpose of seeing when either attachment or aversion arises. When we apply analysis to this process of attachment and aversion arising, it has the power to dispel the suffering that comes from attachment and aversion. So, in other words, I'm not interested in debating for the sake of debating. We are not interested in philosophizing, even though over the last 1,000 years, this has been turned into philosophy. I think here he's saying, no, that's not why. This is to dispel suffering. This is to be used to dispel suffering. Oops. Sorry, I did something. So 139, if there's, so this is Shantideva's own response here. If there's no object for analysis, there can be no grasping of its non-existence. So here he's saying, if through investigation, through analysis, we see that the object, whatever the object is doesn't exist in and of itself, then when we understand that, then that's it. There's no grasping that can be produced in relation to its non-existence, and therefore deceptive objects of whatever kind will also have a non-existence that are equally deceptive. So he's saying that it will cancel itself out. Now, Right now, 139 is still a little bit hard to understand, but 140, he offers some analogies. So 140, he gives the analogy. He says, when therefore in one's dream a child has died, the state of mind that thinks it is no more supplants the thought that it is living still. So this is what happens. He says, like in a dream, you dream that a child has died. So then what is happening there is the thought that their child is living is now replaced by the thought that the child has now died. But this is all happening inside a dream, he says. So therefore, both thoughts are equally deceptive. To say that the child is living in this dream, and to say the child has died in this dream, both thoughts realize that both of them are deceptive. Then 141, therefore, as we see through such investigation, nothing is that does not have a cause, and nothing is existent in its causes, taken one by one or in the aggregate. Actually, 141, 142, let's hold off. Just go back to just 140. So in 140, he is saying that it is what is going on with this analysis is actually not to lead us to thinking, oh, this is existing, or this is not existing, or this is born, or this is die, this has born, and this has died, or this is good, or this is bad. Now, the analysis is not to get us caught up in those details. Those details are used to show how, in fact, this is a dream. Once woken up from the dream, then all the details, they don't continue anymore. No matter how big deal those details are, they don't matter anymore because you're woken up from the dream. So this goes back to his reason why he did not answer the question that he raised, because the question that he raised is one thing to go into the details of, is it a big deal or is it not a big deal? Does it matter? Does it not matter? Well, if this is true, then this is not true. If that is true, then this is not true. It says the reason we even get into those details is to lead us to the realization, wait, all of this is occurring in a dream. Oh, it says that's when the job gets done. The job isn't done and cannot be done if you think that asking of like, if this is true, this is not true. If this is this, then this is this. This is a big deal, then this is not a big deal. If you get caught up in that, then you are not using this analysis in the right way. 141, 142 is talking about how when, again, through this kind of analysis or investigation, you can slowly see how things, they all have causes. Nothing exists without causes. So there's not a single thing that doesn't exist without a cause. And the implications of that is that it will also rule out, right, things like, a first cause, like God as the first cause. Then wait, God is a causeless cause? No, not possible. Then you have to go something caused that and something caused that. And so here is saying what then we also should see, neither does it stay and things are not existent and things are not like existing in the causes, because things are not existent in their causes, meaning things are the results of causes, therefore things cannot exist in their causes. The sprout doesn't exist in the seed, even if the sprout comes from the seed. You cannot say the sprout exists in the seed. There are many other conditions that have to be involved before the seed becomes a sprout. That's his point here. And here is just repeating some of the debating points that we skipped over, because there he's saying, if the results exist in their causes, then we can just buy a bunch of cotton seeds and wear them, meaning like they're like cotton clothes, but obviously not. Nobody does that. Nobody can do that, because between the causes of cotton, which are cotton seeds, and fabric that we wear, there's a whole chain of other conditions that have to come together. And so that he's taking to task, this idea that Prakriti is the answer to all of the things that exist. So here it says in 141, and nothing is existent in its causes, whether taken one by one or even in the aggregate. So 141. Then 142, it does not come from somewhere else, neither does it stay nor yet depart. Here is coming back to famous statements made by Nagarjuna, how things do not come into existence by themselves. Things also do not come into existence caused by something utterly not itself. Instead, of course, what we learn is that things come into existence due to a complex combination of causes and conditions. Yes, Judy.
If you're using the seed sprout analogy, how can you explain the second line in 142?
Neither does it stay, nor yet depart.
Neither does it stay, nor does it depart.
No.
Doesn't apply.
No, then you have to go to the whole section that we skipped.
Oh, okay.
Yes, it's not important really. Here, there are key verses that I think is relevant to us. Then a lot of it is Shantideva debating very obscure points with his colleagues.
Okay. Well, I understand the sprout is not existent and it's in the seed. And I understand that it doesn't come from somewhere else.
Yeah, not staying and not departing is basically saying, I mean, the whole point is like, it's magic. It's a dream. It's a mirage. And if you keep looking for coming, staying, going, all of this, it says only in the sense of a mirage, there is coming, there's staying, there's going. But it's all happening within a dream. Can you see the dreamlike nature is what this whole section is constantly reminding us. Can you see the dreamlike nature of all of this? That's the take-home lesson. So you will, if you go through the section, you'll see keywords: mirage, dreams, illusion. So first of all, like I said, you know, I can't really understand the subtle points that he's debating with his colleagues. But the take-home lessons is very clear. It's a mirage, it's a dream, it's an illusion. And all the details that you're debating, they're all happening within these contexts. It's a mirage, it's a dream, it's an illusion.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah, and also now another one, reflection in the mirror. And magical spells is another word in this section. What is produced from magical spells? So a conclusion point, a take-home lesson point, 144. What is seen when circumstances meet and is no longer seen when circumstances are no longer there? These are not real. It is like an image in a mirror. So how can true existence be ascribed to these images? Well, 145, 146, 147. 148. So I'll just read. So in translation, you all should read too. What need is there for cause in something that's already real? But then what need is there for cause in something that does not exist? Even through 100 million causes, no change takes place in non-existent things. For in that state of non-thing, how could things occur? And into what could non-existent things transform? Since things cannot become when they are non-existence, when could such existence things occur? For insofar as entities do not arise, non-entities themselves will not depart. And if non-entity is not dispersed, no chance is there for entity to manifest. And entity cannot be changed into non-entity, for otherwise it has a double nature. Thus there are no entities, and likewise there's no ceasing of the same. And therefore beings, each and every one, are without origin and never cease. You will say, too early to induce a headache, or too late if you're in Asia to induce a headache before going to bed. So here again, Shantideva is playing with the logic system that his colleagues are very familiar with. What is the definition of a thing? Definition of a thing is blah, blah, blah. And therefore, what is the definition of a non-thing? The definition of a non-thing is blah, blah, blah. This is part of like monastic education. Like here, we have not learned those definitions. And so again, when we read through this section, we get a taste of what is going on. And so if we're in a kind of clear, calm state of mind, more of what he's talking about might come across. But when we are not so kind of clear, and then we read this, we say, this hurts my head. What is this thing and non-thing and entity and non-entity, right? Actually, if we study, right, the definitions of what is an entity, what is a thing, and what is a thing, right? And then the definition of thing, what is it? And then the opposite of it, that what is a non-thing, right? In the monastic education, they spend, like I think the first year it is called definitions. So you define all your terms, existence, non-existence, what is analysis and what is not analysis,
all of that. Right? And if you have that background, then this section will start to have some meaning. But here, 149, yeah, thus there are no entities, and likewise there's no ceasing of the same. We don't need to understand all the definitions of entity and non-entity, as long as we remember that the main point is all that we take to be such a big deal, all that we get attached to, all that we are adverse towards, right? Can we see that all of this is occurring in a dreamlike way? Meaning they're really fragile. They are really fragile. How are they fragile? Well, look at it closely the next time you are angry with something, next time you are attached to something. What is it that we're angry at? What is it that we're attached to? When we begin to look into that, we cannot find that object that we are angry at, that we are attached to. But nonetheless, the feeling is there. But see that that feeling is not real, as in it has no reliable, it has no stable existence. It's very fleeting. But we don't see its fleeting nature because we keep giving it solidity. We keep projecting solidity onto something that is fundamentally very fleeting, very shifting, very changing from moment to moment. To see that is the task that we have. It's the task that we should engage in, to see the fleeting, impermanent, unreliable, unstable nature of our experiences. And therefore, 149, beings, each and every one, are without origin. And if they are without origin, meaning they are without birth, therefore they never cease. Just like a child was never truly born in a dream, and a child never truly dies in a dream. There is only the waking up from a dream. May, go ahead.
If we say that
We
things,
can't hear you too well.
if we say that things are, is this better?
Can the rest of you hear? Okay. Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
If we say that things are illusory, that emotions are illusory and dreamlike, how can we take things like our efforts to, how can we take cause and effect seriously? How do we not dismiss it as, this is not real, I don't have to take it seriously? How do we get motivated to dispel afflictive emotions? How can we avoid, I can see that instinctively, I can see that we need to work hard to dispel afflictive emotions or to at least minimize them. But if we are constantly thinking, well, this is not real, it doesn't really matter. It's
not constantly thinking this is not real, this is not matter. It's when suffering arises. The method is to apply analysis.
Oh, I see. Okay, this is only in the context of when we are analyzing.
Yes. Yeah, so so this is not, again, this is a theme, of course. What you ask is a theme that comes back again and again. Is this delicate balance between seeing clearly cause and effect and suffering. So in the context of like actions, when we need to act, then we need to realize the reality of what we are doing. Can you say that, oh, it's a dream, when you are obviously suffering? Right? So within the context of the dream, happiness and suffering has meaning. Within the context of waking up from the dream and having woken up from the dream, then happiness and suffering in the dream has no meaning. This is Shantideva's point, is raising objection, answering objections of those who say, when you say ultimately ... then Shantideva says, well, ultimately ... we're talking about ultimate level. And then on the ultimate level, here is why we analyze or we don't analyze. So here Shantideva is responding to questions about when you say ultimately this is a dream. Yeah. So then he's answering those questions. when you talk to Shantideva on the side of the experiences of suffering and happiness, as long as we're still caught up in a dream, then he says, you got to pay very careful attention. So this goes back to emptiness and form, form and emptiness. And also we have to always remember, none of these teachings are to be taken in a vacuum. Whatever you hear, you always have to balance it out with everything else that you have heard. You have to be able to contextualize, right? What is he responding, or not just Shantideva, anyone. What is the particular situation that is being responded to? And what are the other teachings that are also there? Otherwise, we become fixated and say, oh, it's all a dream, it's all a dream. It's all a dream, it's all a dream, and you can knock into things in dreams and hurt yourself. Yeah, so we always have to think, we always we always have to remember what are the other teachings that also come with what is being said here. And yourself factor that in. Otherwise, it will be like, I've learned this, and I have totally forgotten all the other things. Oh, I've learned that. Now I've totally forgotten the other things. So therefore we say, all the 84,000 dharmas are collectively the single path to waking up. So here again, Shantideva is responding to questions about the ultimate nature of things. What happens when we are awake? What happens when we leave this dream? Because his opponents are saying, or bringing up certain doubts. Well, if you talk like this, then, after you wake up from this dream, aren't you again in another dream? Aren't you again in another dream? Aren't you again in another dream? And he says, no, it's not. Once you wake up, you wake up. But the other areas here, he's also responding to questions about how do you use this analysis? And he says, okay, well, you use the analysis in this way. Then his opponents will say, well, in that case, they have two scenarios. In that case, the analysis will have no end, or the analysis has no effectiveness. And then again, he is using kind of ultimate truth level to answer them, to say, your objections show that you don't understand where the analysis should be used and how it is used. So this is what he's doing in this section. So 150, it says, wandering beings thus resemble dreams, and also the banana tree, meaning the banana tree has no core. It just layer upon layer upon layer, the banana trunk. Wandering beings thus resemble dreams, and also the banana tree, if you examine well. In ultimate reality, so this is really important, in ultimate reality, there's no distinguishing between the states of sorrow and beyond all sorrow, even samsara and nirvana. In the ultimate state, samsara and nirvana has no meaning. Then starting from 151 on is some of the most beautiful passages in the Bodhicharyavatara. It talks about pain, it talks about suffering, it talks about how we create all of this on the relative realm. And how on the ultimate realm can we see that none of this really has true reality. So the path is always this two sides of form and emptiness. If you see that you're falling into the emptiness side, you have to come back to the form side. If you see you have become fixated on the form side, you have to remember the emptiness side. So cause and effect and emptiness are one and the same thing. So until we're Buddhas, we're constantly, leaning one side or the other side. But the state of Buddha is completely when these two sides are understood. So those of you who study Gongchik, you have heard of that strange formulation of the essence or the playing out. Not essence and playing out. Then these are two things. The or there functions as they are one and the same thing. But look at it from two different sides. Look at it from this side, the essence is empty. Look at it from this side, within this emptiness, cause and effect, happiness and suffering plays out without mistake. So we're going to take a brief break here.
Om Wage Jware Mum wage jware mum, wage jware mum. 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 wage jware wage jware wage jware wage jware
Okay. So yes, coming back, like the broader context, always don't forget this broader context. I've said, like, for example, I give one and another example that comes to mind. Like when we read like books, for example, some of the books that have been published, which is transcripts of teachings given by this famous forest monk, master Ajahn Chah. There are some very nice transcripts, of his teachings given. And then also I can think like a classic, especially in the West, called Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind by Shunryu Suzuki. So when you read, these teachings, they both, sound very at ease, very easygoing, everything, don't fixate, don't become stuck, just free the mind, liberate the mind, la la la. And it all sounds like, wow, so nice, so nice, so nice, But neither of these books give us the full picture, because when Shunryu Suzuki was giving his lectures about not grasping, releasing, letting go, when Ajahn Chah talks about, don't fixate, don't, all these teachings are given within a context where, for example, in the forest tradition, impeccable attention to the 227 rules of training for monks, down to how you sit, how you walk. When you walk, don't look left, don't look right, don't look up, don't look down, look ahead. when you eat, don't have food falling out of your mouth. All of that training is going on. And the physical hardship, waking up at 3 in the morning, going for 3-4 hours, walking into town and back from town to collect food. And food that you don't get to choose. People just pile whatever they pile in, whatever they think is, of course, when they offer, they think is the best. But imagine whatever they offer, they think is best individually at every house. No one is coordinating. Oh, we should have enough vegetables. We should have enough protein. We should have enough salt. We should have enough, sweet. No, everything is just put in. Everyone thinks, oh, I'm putting the best thing in. It very likely one day, all you get is the same thing, but cooked differently. And then the next day you get something else. So all of that is going on. And then Ajahn Chah teaches. Everything is fine. Everything is good. Relax, 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 relax. But that relaxing is in the context of almost a pressure cooker environment. Same with Shunryu Suzuki, in the Zen tradition, their formal seated meditation, unlike Ajahn Chah's tradition, formal seated meditation sessions probably go on for like 10 to 12 hours a day. Within that context, he says, just let go, just let go. So you cannot read Shantideva about ultimately there is nothing when you are just spending the whole day watching Netflix. Only when you have done a few hundred prostrations, you have exhausted, you have sweated away, you feel like, oh, I have like burned off negative karma. Then you can sit down and go, this is all an illusion. There's nothing to purify. There's no purifier. And the act of purifying is all dependently arising. Release, let go. That's how it's supposed to work. Yeah, so I think sometimes, like we just read books. And even in Buddhist communities, we go to just part-time communities, so we don't get the full extent of what this is. Of course, that is our situation, what to do, right? I'm not saying that, you have to change your situation, but it's important that we remember that our context is rather different. Yeah, so anyway, this next, the concluding verses really, to me, they're really beautiful. From like 150, which we have already read, and then 151 to 167. That really kind of brings together, you see, then like steering away from like this logic, this debate, which Shantideva was doing, which I think those sections are a little bit less relevant to us. But this last section really, to me, brings so much has a real kind of heartfelt as well as clarity. Not just heartfelt, feels so good, but also this clarity of like how we should practice this wisdom, what kind of understanding we should have underlying all the practices that we do, which is really what chapter 9 is about. In the midst of doing all the practices that we do, in the midst of working on dispelling the kleshas, in the midst of being careful about our observance of cause and effect, what kind of overall attitude we should have, what kind of understanding we should have when we engage in the more detailed and more contextual aspects of the path of the training. Yeah, so let's see, 51. With things that are in this way, with things that in this way are empty, what is there to gain and what to lose? Who is there to pay me court and honors? And who is there to scorn and revile me? Pleasure, sorrow, whence do these arise? What is there to give me joy and pain? And if I search their very suchness, who is craving? What is craved? Examine now this world of living beings. Who is there therein to pass away? What is there to come, and what has been? And who indeed are relatives and friends? May beings like myself discern and grasp that all things have the character of space. But those who seek happiness and ease through disputes or enjoyments, all are deeply troubled or else thrilled with joy. They suffer, strive, contend among themselves, slashing, stabbing, injuring each other. They live their lives engulfed in evil and travel. From time to time, they surface in the states of bliss, abandoning themselves to many pleasures. But dying down, they fall to suffer torment, long unbearable in realms of sorrow. Many are the chasms and abysses of existence where the truth of suchness is not found. All is contradiction, all denial. Suchness in this world is not like this. Here, exceeding all description, is the shoreless sea of pain unbearable. Here it is that strength is low and lives are flickering and brief. All activities for the sake of life and health, relief of hunger and weariness, time consumed in sleep, all accident and injury, and sterile friendships with the childish. Thus life passes quickly, meaningless. True discernment, hard it is to have. How therefore shall we ever find the means to curb the futile wanderings of the mind? Further, evil forces work and strain to cast us down into the states of woe. Manifold are false, deceptive trails, and it is hard to dissipate our doubts. Hard it is to find again this state of freedom, harder yet to come upon enlightened teachers. Hard indeed to turn aside the torrent of defilement. Alas, our sorrows fall in endless streams. Alas, indeed, that living beings carried on the flood of bitter pain. How terrible their plight may be, do not perceive they suffer so. They are like those who bathe themselves repeatedly and then proceed to scorch themselves with fire. They suffer greatly in this way, yet there they stay, proclaiming loud their bliss.
10 minutos.
Likewise, there are some who live and act as though old age and death will never come to them. But first they are slain, and there comes the dreadful fall into the states of loss. When shall I be able to allay and quench the dreadful heat of suffering's blazing fires? When plenteous rains of my own bliss that pour torrential from my clouds of merit, my wealth of merit gathered in with reverence but without conceptual target, when shall I reveal this truth of emptiness to those who go to ruin through belief in real existence? Yeah, so these are the concluding verses of this chapter. I think we have to read again and again, you know. This is like the final kind of, remember all the things that came before, all the difficult things that you have to practice, all the strivings that you have to do, all the ways that you have to guard yourself, alertness, mindfulness, and all of that. But all of that is to be done with this. Even these verses here, you know, on the one hand, it's like, you know, all of this is an illusion. But on the other hand, see how within this delusion, so much suffering is going on. Again and again, we harm ourselves, even when we want to be free from suffering. And again, when we harm ourselves, we have no choice but to also harm other people. And then we go deeper and deeper in this confusion. When in fact, it's such a simple thing. It's also what Shantideva is saying. Yeah, so these verses, please read a few more times. And the next time we meet, we will go over these verses. But yeah, these verses are really kind of like brings together both the illusory nature of everything, how we are in this dream, but the necessity of waking up from this dream. If we don't wake up from this dream, then we will continue to suffer. Even if the suffering is from the perspective of having woken up, just an illusion, just a mistake, not real. But now, within this dream, so much dukkha generated for self, generated for others. So today I'll end with one story from the Zen tradition. I've told this before, I'll repeat this again. One kind of student, being a kind of smart, thinks that he's so clever, tries to trick his teacher. Asks his teacher one day, he says, can awakened beings, enlightened beings see in the dark? So he was walking with his teacher in the dark night, and the teacher was holding a lantern. But he purposely asked this question: can enlightened beings, awakened beings, see in the dark? So here, obviously, there's metaphoric and literal darkness involved, right, for dramatic effect. Then the teacher said, yes, of course. Of course, enlightened beings can see in the dark. Then the student said, then how come you're holding a lamp? Then the teacher immediately said, so that those of you who can't see in the dark won't, bump into me. So we have to, there is no darkness, so to say, but depending on context and circumstance, even those who don't experience darkness anymore have to work within those concepts of that context for the benefit of others. So Milarepa, at one point, he said to his disciples, this is when he was quite old already, he says, at this point, I have broken through all confusions. So then it matters not to me anymore whether I continue to live in these mountains in isolation, or I live down in the village, in the towns, among people. But for the sake of being an example to all those who are still on the path, I have chosen to remain up here in the solitude of the mountains. So the third example, it is said that Kyopa Jigten Sumden, founder of Drigum Kagyu, in fact, when he achieved enlightenment, he was a lay person. So it was only after that that he then became a fully ordained monk. Why? He says, this is how that I have to live to show others the way. So it's a dream, it's an illusion, but within this dream and illusion, everything unfolds.
Changchu Semcho Rinpoche Ma Ge Ba Nang Ge Gyu Chi Ge Ba Nyam Ba Me Ba Yang Gong Ne Gong Du Be Sure. Thank you, everyone. And also, there is among this group some of you who join in the effort to get me an upgrade in the equipment for doing Zoom and all that. So thank you so much for all the effort that you all put together. And this is the new computer, but still figuring out some of the things on this. So we've got to do some work. And because there's no teenager available easily here, it will take a while for me to figure this out. So Shantideva's class, as you can see, is already coming to an end. The dedication chapter is just not much to say. It's dedication prayers. Then after maybe a short break, Ani Tsomo in Wisconsin had a request, a suggestion that I thought is pretty good, and I'm going to look into that, which is a short course, maybe just meeting once a week, where we look at the vows and the precepts. So from refuge vows to the 5 lay vows to the Bodhisattva vows to the Vajrayana Samayas, kind of going through them carefully, and kind of thinking through what are the applications and the challenges and how we observe them. Because often these vows are just very quickly said, during the vow receiving ceremony. Then after that, almost, not much attention given to them in a formal way. Of course, informally, it said that we should all practice them, observe them, but there doesn't seem to be a clear kind of formal classes, too many of them that deals with that. So maybe we'll at least I'll start then. If you're interested, stay tuned. Okay, bye-bye. Have a good weekend. Ta-ta.
Thank you.
Next Saturday, no class.
Thank you. Okay.
Gracias.
Next Saturday, no class.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Lai.
Thank you, all of you.
Thank you.
Gracias.